Breaking news, Juan Soto not on the Nationals' 30-man roster as they get set to open the season tonight. ESPN reporting that he has tested positive for COVID-19. The Nationals opening up tonight in the first Major League Baseball game of the season against the Yankees. But Juan Soto is not going to play, not on the roster. If you go back to July 7th, he was put into isolation after coming in contact with a teammate who was positive for COVID-19. But then he was cleared about a week ago and appeared in exhibition games for the Washington Nationals. They are underdogs tonight at home against Garrett Cole, a pitcher who they faced in the World Series last year. Let's bring in David Sampson, who knows the ins and outs of what we know about the protocols out there. But this is an interesting case, David, because, I mean, he went into isolation because of contact tracing, then was cleared, and now he has it, apparently.
So this is obviously the biggest name player to test positive, and it happens right as opening day. And this is an indication of what's going to happen throughout the season. MLB was prepared for the fact, and so were owners and presidents and GMs. Players will test positive throughout the season, and here's what happens. The player goes onto the COVID IL, they're calling it. It's a separate COVID list. There's not a minimum or a maximum amount of time that a player needs to spend there, but that player needs to test negative twice before he can rejoin the roster. And what you're seeing, some players have no symptoms and they keep testing positive, like Chapman of the Yankees, who we haven't talked much about, but he still is on the COVID list, not on the 30-man roster. But as soon as Juan Soto does test negative twice, he can then rejoin the roster. But the question for me, Chris, is this, and we don't have clarification. He came in contact, Juan Soto did, before July 7th and then went into isolation. What does that mean? Does it mean at first base? Was it a first baseman for another team? Was it a teammate of his who he was at the sink with shaving? Was it a teammate who he was next to, those 6 feet apart, on the team bus or on the field during BP? What does it mean to come into contact? Because now that Juan Soto's positive, who has Juan Soto come into contact with, and what happens to those players? Well, those players will now be tested, in theory, according to the protocol, every day with the swab test, and that's how contact tracing is supposed to work. But they're not going to shut down baseball over this, but teams and gamblers and Grand Slam picks all are impacted, because what is the line now on my Grand Slam pick of the day, which was the Nationals? It better not be only plus 125, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now it is, but that might change. Maybe not too much because it's just one player, but that's a big bat in Juan Soto, 21 years old, 34 homers last season, over 100 runs batted in, batting average over 280, and that line has changed. Jack, our producer, saying that the line is now plus what? Plus 143. So a little bit more of an underdog tonight for your Grand Slam pick. I do want to know, though, let's just say that Juan Soto, who reportedly tested positive, was in contact with a player, very close contact, yesterday, okay? Does that player have to isolate and go into quarantine, or does all that matter is the positive test? If that player does not test positive, is that player still good to go?
Yes, as long as that player continues to test negative, and remain asymptomatic and pass the temperature checks and be honest about how he feels, that player can keep playing. But of course, the science isn't perfect. We don't know. If you're asymptomatic, you can be negative today, but still actually be a carrier. And if you took the test the next day, you'd be positive. It's why I wanted testing every day, but we're settling for every other day. So if there is someone who came into contact with Juan Soto and is positive, but it's not manifesting itself through the saliva test or the swab test yet, that same player has to take a new test 2 days from now. So throughout this season, we're going to get lineups, and then there's going to be changes. So you have to watch for a lot of line movement. And the truth is, when you're going to be putting a wager on a game, you want to do it as close to game time as possible, because you simply don't know. Imagine, and obviously this didn't happen, but imagine if the starting pitcher, Scherzer or Cole, all of a sudden had a positive test the day of his start. That would certainly change the game more than the $18 that have been changed because Juan Soto is not playing, which, by the way, it should be more than that.
And it might end up being more than that. No Juan Soto, and opting out Ryan Zimmerman, Joe Ross, and Wellington Castillo, David.
Yeah, the Nationals for me are still a team, and I actually, on nothing personal today, I'm picking them to win the World Series, to be the first team to repeat since the Yankees in 98, 99, and 2000. I think they'll find a way. They did it without Harper. They'll find a way without Rendon, but they need Juan Soto. He is one of the top 3 players in the National League, in my opinion, and he basically anchors that line. So without him, you have a problem.
Well, we're hoping to just focus on baseball today, but we know in this day and age that just is not going to be the case, because we're going to have positive COVID-19 tests for the foreseeable future, and Juan Soto is a big name. He will not be playing tonight for the Washington Nationals. You can hear David Sampson on Nothing Personal with David Sampson. Much more to come. Will Middlebrooks, former World Series champ, joining us with a player's perspective. Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.